Hi, and welcome to Mondays with Marlo. We are so excited to have Tory Johnson with us today. She is so fabulous, and she's the founder of Women for Hire, which helps women all over the country find new careers, get jobs, move up the corporate world, start businesses of their own. And boy, in this economy, do we need advice about that. So many things that are so important. Thank you so much, Tory, for being with us today.
It's an honor for me.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Well, we're honored to be listening to these women give us these questions, and men. So I want to get right to them because we have so many. You're very popular.
Great.
Everybody obviously knows
Excellent.
that you know.
It's a time when we need lots of advice on this subject.
Yes,
so.
absolutely.
Good.
This is from Melanie. Hi, Melanie. Welcome. What 5 things should women think about before starting their own business?
So smart. Okay, Melanie, first thing that you want to think about is your why. Why do you want to start this business? And it's not just about making more money. It's what is that money going to do for you? Is it going to mean that you can send your kids to private school? Is it going to mean that you can pay for some type of medical treatment that's really important to somebody in your family? Really understand what your why is. Then, what's your what? What is this business going to be? What kind of business do you envision for yourself? Is it a product or a service? What specifically are you going to do? Who are you going to do it for? You really want to pinpoint who your customer is going to be and how ultimately you're going to reach that person. How much? How much is it going to cost you to start? How much money can you make? Is it realistic in terms of what you need personally? Are you going to be able to make the money that you need from this small business, and is that going to work for you? And then finally, fifth and perhaps most importantly of all, you really want to think about your tolerance to sell. Most small business owners want to do everything else except sell, and yet no sales, no business.
This is from Sherry. How do you know if you're cut out for working for yourself?
Oh, Sherry, a smart one too. So I think one of the most important things to think about is discipline. Do you have a lot of discipline? There are a lot of people, frankly, who are very happy to clock in and clock out, report to a job where somebody's going to tell them exactly what to do each and every day and throughout the day. Others hate to be micromanaged, but if you're somebody who can be really disciplined, who can create a to-do list and then take action on everything on that list, that's one of the really good signs that entrepreneurship could be for you.
This is from Carrie. What is the most common obstacle that women deal with in growing their business, and how can they overcome it?
So, Carrie, one of the biggest things is all about money. So it's a lack of access to the capital necessary to start a business. So a lot of the women who I work with, I'm all about let's figure out what resources you have at your disposal and let's use what you have to get what you want. So let's not make no money a barrier. Let's figure out how can we start smaller, how can we create some immediate sales so that we can really fund your growth through sales. And then the other really comes down to selling. A lot of women just are uncomfortable selling, and so you want to make sure that you recognize that without selling, there is no revenue coming in, there is no business. And so getting comfortable selling, that might mean taking a course, reading a book, like recognizing that this is something important and I'm going to have to get comfortable doing it.
Is there any bias to women getting loans from banks? I mean, there was years ago,
Sure.
and I know the laws have changed. But is it open now, really?
It really is open in terms of bank loans. But bank loans for everybody, men and women, for starting small businesses, it's a tough economy for that. It's definitely a tough economy. Women have a more difficult time getting venture capital money. But the good thing about women is we can make something from nothing, right? So you know how to whip up a dinner when there's nothing in the refrigerator. And the truth can be applied to small business as well. Let's look at what assets do you have? Who do you know that we can get to help us with this piece? How can we just start small, generate some revenue, and then use that revenue to grow the business?
And be creative. It sounds like you have to be very creative.
Very creative, and I think that's where women really have a leg up.
Oh, that's great. I love hearing that. We have the leg up. Isn't that good to hear? This is from Tina. Which financial issues do you see women struggling with most right now?
So there's a lot of issues, Tina. I think there's some for people who have jobs. I think one of the biggest are people who are underemployed right now. So the big financial issue is that the paycheck does not allow them to make ends meet, and they're looking for a second job, or they're looking for a new full-time job, which is a challenge, of course, in this economy. And then with small business, it's not exclusive to women. It's about bringing in enough revenue to sustain the business. And so the more you focus on money, one of the biggest problems problems that a lot of women face is an unwillingness to talk about or ask for money. And so simply being willing to speak up for money, to ask for the sale, to ask for the money that you need.
Ask money from who?
It could be from a customer, from a prospective customer that you're going after. If you are on the job, sometimes it's about asking for a raise if you deserve a raise. It's about negotiating salary when you get that first job offer. A lot of people in this economy, when you get that job offer, they'll just take it because they're terrified if I negotiate, they're going to knock me out of the running. So when you think about this question in terms of a big overall financial struggle, it's often just a discomfort in talking about and asking for money.
And saying, this is what I'm worth.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. And believing it.
Now this is a hard question. This is from Pam. Hi Pam, welcome.
Hi Pam.
What's the most important piece of financial advice you would give to women in their 20s, their 30s, their 40s, or their 50s? Is there one for each decade?
Okay. So I got to channel my inner Susie Orman here, right? I'm thinking back to when you had Susie sitting in this seat. So first in 20s, I would say don't think that you will never retire. When I was in my 20s, I foolishly cashed out my 401k thinking, oh, you know what, I have plenty of time to make up that money. And it's really, really hard to make up that money. So maximize your 401k. Don't assume that you do not have to yet start saving for retirement because you are only in your 20s. Get serious about it. 30s and 40s, I would say it's a lot about really planning for the future, putting money away, not just what you're putting away in your 401k, but it's making sure that you've invested wisely in a home, so you've got a piece of property that you're going to have for the long haul, that you don't amass credit card debt, that if you have that debt that you're really paying down that debt. And I think when you get to your 50s, a lot of that is about not being so quick to give it all away, to really assessing your situation. If you've got kids who are going to college, is it better off that they take out student loans rather than you deplete your savings to put them through college? And really doing sort of an honest financial assessment about where you are, where your loved ones are, so that you are well taken care of, because by that point you really have a lot less time to make up what you'll ultimately need for a comfortable retirement.
And I think that through all these decades you should also be saving.
100%.
Yeah, saving.
Absolutely.
I didn't save a cent in my early career.
Imagine.
I just spent it and was having a wonderful time. Yeah, and I really look back now and think, my God, if I just had saved a little bit more.
A little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit.
That's right.
Yeah. We had a woman on the Today Show with us, and her advisor, who had never saved any money, was having a terrible time. And this advisor said, just $25 a week.
That's right.
Just start there.
You can start small.
Just
That's
start
right.
small. This is from Vanessa. I recently changed jobs in May, and I'm not happy with the new position. What should I say to potential employers about the short time I've been employed?
Okay, so a couple of things here I would think about, Vanessa. The first thing is, what don't you like about the current position? Can we salvage that job? So a lot of times we think that, oh, the grass would just be greener someplace else and I'll just go get another job. And instead, what I'd rather you do first is think about, could there be things that I could do? Can I have a candid conversation with my manager? Is there another position within the company that I might be able to move to before I just think that I've got to throw in the towel and walk out of this place for good? Then, if you continue to job search, I would be very selective about that. And when it comes time to the question, there's a couple things that you could say. One is, if you truly have only been in the job for a short period of time, you can indicate that it perhaps was a short-term assignment. Maybe there's a way that you could finesse it like that. If not, you can say, you know what? I've always had a really strong record with employment. I've done incredibly good work every place that I've worked, and what I've discovered here is this isn't the best fit for me. And you want to just be candid about it. You never want to badmouth that current or former employer. You want to stay very positive and put the onus on you that it's not the right fit for you.
That's great. That's great. And also that this was an interim place until I found what I really wanted.
Exactly.
Of course, yeah.
You could be the job guru here. You're the job guru.
No, I've just had to make up a lot of stories in my life. What are the rules for asking for a raise? Like, do you have to be at the job a certain amount of time? Are there rules?
Okay, I don't think that the clock should determine your raise. Now, that's not to say you've been on the job 2 weeks, you want a raise. But I think that one of the mistakes people make is assuming, okay, I've been here a year, time's up, I get to get a raise right now. And really, a raise is based on performance. What have you done to justify a raise? Are you delivering above and beyond in this particular position, where the position now should suddenly be worth more to the employer, and therefore they're going to pay you more? So what you want to do from day one is track your successes. Not just what you do on the job, but how well you do it on the job. So when it comes time to asking for a raise, which you can do, one, you can do it by the calendar, but that's not an automatic given. Sometimes if it hasn't been quite a year, but you still think you deserve a raise, maybe it's because you saved the company a lot of money. Maybe it's because you closed a really big account. Maybe it's because you did an incredible job leading a particular project and you saved the day, and therefore you think you deserve that raise. Maybe 3 other people left the company and you're doing everybody's job now. You think you deserve a little bit of a raise. Make sure that you can justify the why, and the why has to be performance-based. It's not based on the fact that my rent went up, my child care is more expensive. It's got to be based on a business case of what you're doing for that employer.
Yeah. That's interesting. I've had people come to me and say something about their life and that's why they need it. And you think, well, everybody
the job,
has that.
Of course,
Yeah.
and the job is still worth only so much.
Right, exactly. This is from Aurora Storm. That's a great name.
Yeah.
How do you convince someone that you'd be great at a specific job, even though you don't quite fit the listed qualifications? That's a great question.
That's a good one. So this is where your, inner sales goddess is going to come out. And so what you want to figure out is, where have you been a quick study in the past? So, for example, maybe you were put into a position previously where you didn't have all of the skills and the requirements necessary to do that job, but you rose to the occasion. You learned how to do things. Give some real examples. Don't just say, I'm confident I can do this, no question about it. Say, let me tell you about something in the past. I needed to communicate with somebody in another country. I didn't know that language. Here's how I made that work. Here's a problem that I solved. I'm a really great problem solver. I'm a very quick study, and here are the 3 reasons why I know I could rise to the challenge in this position.
That's great. That's very good. This is from Debbie D. Welcome, Debbie D.
Hi, Debbie.
How do you handle the interview process? After interviewing, do you send a thank you note? But what can I do besides that? Just wait? Can I contact the prospective employer to find out what they're planning? What can I do to get the job?
Sure. So, Debbie, one of the first things that you want to do at the end of every interview is ask, what are the next steps? When can I expect to hear from you? So you never want to leave an interview until you're armed with that kind of information. Within 24 hours, definitely send a follow-up email so that they get it immediately, thanking the person, and not just saying, thanks for your time, hope you pick me, but really reiterate some of the most important elements of that conversation. Now also is your chance that if something didn't come up that you wish you would have said, or something that you know that they're particularly concerned about, now's the time to address that and really hammer home why you'd be a great asset for that job. And then let them know within that email that you're going to follow up with them, that you're going to do what you said you were going to do during the interview. I'm going to call you in 3 days, or I expect to hear from this person in a week, and I'm going to be in touch with you because I'm really committed to this position. And if you don't hear back, I would say each week call up and keep calling every week until somebody finally says, we've either filled the job or we're not interested. But you want to stay top of mind. And it's not just harassing them, did you make a decision, did you make a decision, but really providing any kind of fuel that you can to advance your candidacy.
Yeah, and also it lets the employer know that you really want the job.
You want the job. This wasn't just anything you applied for, but something you were really interested in.
This is great advice you're giving.
Thank
really,
you.
I'm very excited.
Good. So you're not about to boot me now?
No,
okay,
because
good.
this is all about information, and that's what we want to do, but I'm just thrilled that the questions are so strong.
They're great.
And you've got wonderful
These
answers.
women know what they want,
Absolutely.
so I love it.
This is from Pamela. What advice do you have when you really need more money than the offer you're getting for a job? Are there bargaining tools that one can use?
So, Pamela, that's a conundrum that a lot of people face. So the first is you have to be willing to negotiate. And one of the first questions that you could ask is, you can say, thank you so much for the offer. I'm flattered that you're interested in hiring me. I'd like your candid advice or feedback on how much room there is for me to negotiate. Where does this salary fall within the spectrum of what is typically allocated for this position? So try to get a sense. And someone will either say to you right then and there, this is firm, lady, you take it or leave it, or they'll say, well, think about it and let us know what you have in mind. And they're then opening the door for you to negotiate. Now, you want to do some of your research to find out what should this position pay, because you want to come back with a negotiating point that is not outrageous, but rather you can say, you know what, I went on salary.com or payscale.com. I've looked at some of the online salary calculators, and I know that this position should probably pay about 20% more. And based on my salary history and also based on what I'm going to be expected to perform in this role, I'm wondering if something in that range would be possible. And so it's not a threat. You never want to say, if you don't give me this, I'm not taking the job. Because be prepared in that case that someone's going to say, see ya, not interested. But instead, show that you've done your research, show that you mean business in your negotiation, and have that kind of candid conversation where there's some give and take, and there's a good chance that they're going to up it for you.
Yeah, if I ever have to do this, I want you standing right outside the office.
Whispering in your ear?
Right. This is from Diane D. Tory, I'm stuck. For the past 30 years, I've been working in the interior design field. I've been a wife and a mother. Now, I wish to make a change in my creative career. I want to write and illustrate children's books. Where do I begin?
Diane, start right now. Start writing and illustrating children's books right now. Don't wait for somebody to come along and hire you to do that. Right this minute, you can start doing that without anybody's permission but your own. And put it together. Put that book together, and then you've got that finished product, and you could either choose to go out and self-publish it on your own and get it out in the marketplace right away, or you could shop it around to children's book publishers. But you're going to be taken a whole lot more seriously if you can say, here, I've done it. Look at my work. Than just, oh, this is a pipe dream that I have and I'm thinking of doing it.
Right.
Just go do it.
Exactly. Yeah. And writing is one of the few things you can actually sit down and do yourself without anybody.
That's right.
You know, unlike being an actress where you need everyone.
That's right.
This is from Deborah. What are 5 things everyone needs to know, in your opinion, about preparing for an interview?
Great question, Deborah. Okay, so a couple things to think about. First is you want to know everything about that company. You can find anything that you want to know by going on the company's website, by Googling the company. Who are their competitors? What's their position in the marketplace? What do you know about that organization? Then you want to know everything you can about the person that you are interviewing with. Look at their LinkedIn profile. Google them. Have they ever been written up in any articles? What can you learn about them? Even ask the HR person who is setting up the interview, you know, what can you tell me about the person that I'm going to be meeting with? Is there anything that I should know? Then you want to know everything you can about the job description, so you don't wait till you sit down in the job and, you know, and say, so tell me about this position. You know, make sure that you've really looked at every line of that job description and you're ready to answer line by line by line why you meet their criteria, why you'd be an ideal asset. You want to also rehearse, number 4, your resume. You want to be able to defend every line in your resume. So if somebody picks that odd bullet on the second page and says, tell me about this, you're ready to speak to it. And you're not, well, I'm not sure why that's on there. Really defend your resume. And number 5, be able to talk about where you want to go with your career. Expect that people are going to ask, tell me about yourself. Tell me about your goals. Tell me about what you're interested in personally.
This is from Eden. What's the best way to handle the question, why are you not working? Long-time unemployment is a sad reality. Being unemployed isn't a choice I'd make willingly. I know it seems like such an odd question.
Okay.
Why do people say that to people? Why are you not working?
Sure, why aren't you working? So, Eden, here's what I think that you need to focus on. You have to be able to turn it around and focus on what you are doing right now. And the reality is, even when you are not employed, even when you're not receiving a paycheck, you don't have to sit at home all day. You don't have to sit on the couch. You don't have to sit in front of the computer. You can do some strategic volunteering. You can find perhaps an adult internship or externship. You can take a course. And so what you want to be able to do is talk about the things that you are doing right now and say, and simultaneously, of course, I'm looking for the perfect opportunity. My particular field has been very hard hit, but I'm determined and I'm confident and I know that my time is coming.
That's great. This is from Jennifer C. I've been a stay-at-home mom for 5 years with my one daughter. Could you offer tips for returning to the job market after being away for 5 years?
Sure, Jennifer. Okay, so a couple things that you want to think about. First is make sure that you have all your social media profiles up to date. So you want to be able to put the professional Jennifer on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Twitter, and that immediately shows that you have not lost touch with technology, even if you're just starting out right now. Then think about your mom group. So a lot of times people say, like, the only people I associate with now are other moms. Well, those moms have husbands, spouses, friends, parents, siblings, partners, I mean everybody who could potentially help you get your next position. And one of the things for anybody who's overcoming a gap in employment, whether it's because of 5 years of parenting or 5 years of anything, frankly, is that you have to rely on your circle of contacts to help you make future connections for employment. So somebody's going to need to vouch for you personally. I know Jennifer. Jennifer's a great person. Jennifer would be a great asset to your organization. Would you give her an informational interview? Would you chat with my friend Jennifer? So you really want to think about how you're going to lean on your personal contacts to make professional introductions. It's not just about sending your resume out there and hoping someone doesn't notice that there's a 5-year gap,
Right.
right? They're going to notice. So lean on your contacts to make introductions. Don't lean on a resume to do the job for you.
Yeah, and do it soon, because we've met women who've been out 12 years and they're really having a rough time.
That's right.
A very rough time. This person calls themselves Qualified After 40. Dear Tory, in January of 2009, I was laid off from my full-time administrative assistant position in a leading worldwide advertising agency in New York City. Since I started the job search shortly after, I was told by several recruiters to take the year I graduated from college, 1992, off my resume to make me not look too, quote, old. I find this insulting. What's your opinion? I need a job. Should I do it?
Take it off your resume. It's not about being insulting. The bottom line is, like, we live in a culture that is youth obsessed. It's the way that it is. And you know what? Age bias is very real in the job market. So there's no reason to hang on to a date on a resume that could potentially knock you out of the running. Is it fair? Of course it's not fair. But you know what? Job searching and landing a position is not about fair or unfair. It's about, what do we need to do to get you a job? What do we need to do to get you back to work? And if taking off that date is going to help your resume get more yeses, and that resume is going to then lead to more phone calls that we want to meet you, take it off. And frankly, I tell everybody, if you're out of school more than 5 years, take that date off your resume anyway.
Well, that's great. I love that you're so tough. I love that. This is from Monica. Hi, Tory. I know you had a lot of rejection, and that's why you started your own company. How long did it take you to get the confidence and resilience to come back?
Oh, Monica, so when I was fired, totally coldly fired from a job that I loved, a job that I thought I could have forever, I went home and I had myself a big old pity party for many, many months, like many more months than I would have wanted. And frankly, the only way that I ever got that confidence back was because my money ran out, because I didn't have any more unemployment. I depleted my savings, and it was either figure out how to snap out of it or pack up your bags and move back home to Miami Beach and live with my parents, which I didn't want to do. I was living in New York City and loving it, and so it was nothing like the shock of an ATM machine showing you, a near zero balance that snapped me out of it.
Great.
And so then I also kind of in that process recognized that you could take away my corporate ID, you could take away my business cards, but you couldn't take away all of the successes that I had generated. I owned those successes, and I needed to step up and claim them and recognize that I still had something of value to offer, even though this one company no longer wanted me. And now, as I've worked with so many people in the last few years who've lost their jobs, that's a really important recognition for them. Just because that company didn't want you or that person didn't want you doesn't mean that your value is gone. And you've got to recognize that, own that, believe that, and as soon as you do, you get a job.
Oh, that's great. Now, this is from Rashni. Tory, what's the best way to get employers to notice your resume out of the thousands that they receive? What's the best way to stand out without getting tossed in the trash?
So this is where a site like LinkedIn can be so powerful. So if you can use LinkedIn to find an internal referral, and if you can't find an internal referral, meaning if you don't know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who works at that company and could put your resume in front of the decision maker, then at the very least you could use LinkedIn to get a name. Sometimes when you just know the name of the person that you need to reach because they head the department that you want to work for, or they work in the department that you want to work for, being able to cold call that person or to email them and say, I realize that you don't know me, I know that you've got this opening, here's why I'd be a great asset, could I send you my resume? I really want to do everything possible to show that I'm especially committed, not just to this line of work, but to your company in particular. So I would say, don't rely on the online job boards, don't rely on just submitting your resume and hoping someone's going to find it. You want to really work the phones, work the system to be able to get someone to recognize that you're there and that you're interested.
And everything, all of your advice is really about taking the reins of this.
Take charge.
Take charge of it and make it happen for yourself.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So important. It's important for everybody to do, but especially now more than ever.
Right. This is from Jean Pickering. She says, hi, Tory. I've been unemployed for almost 2 years and have decided to try to take control of my situation by starting a small business. What is the current and future outlook for small businesses these days? Any general tips on what to do or not to do, or any good online resources?
So I am bullish on small businesses because small businesses are really the backbone of our economy. Small businesses have always gotten us out of challenging times, and a small business is yours. You can make it as recession-proof, as pink slip-proof as you want it to be. And I would suggest that one of the easiest things to do is start a service-based business. So look at the kind of expertise that you have: graphic design, administrative services, accounting, whatever your expertise is, and start a service-based business, because then you don't have a lot of overhead. You can get started pretty quickly as opposed to a product business where you've got to invest in a lot of inventory to get going, and put out your shingle and start marketing yourself. Some of my favorite free resources, the SBA website has a lot of stuff, sba.gov, and also score.org. If you plug in your zip code on the SCORE website, you can find a SCORE office near you where you can meet in person, confidentially and free, with an executive who can help you plan and launch your small business. So lots of free resources.
Here's a question we hear all the time, and that is from Steph. She says, "Hey, Tory, I work full-time and I have 2 small children. Right now I'm spending 60% of my net salary on child care. This is just too much of a hit for our family. What are some options for lower costs but good child care? There has to be another way to do this."
That is a big conundrum for working parents, right? And so one solution that actually I just had a client who just did something very similar to this is she pooled resources in her neighborhood. And so they looked at a couple of different solutions, and they're still deciding the perfect one for them. But one of the ideas was to hire one babysitter, and this worked because the kids were in elementary school. So they weren't babies, but they were in elementary school. And I don't know how old your child is, but potentially this could work for you. And so all the kids every day would go to one home, and everybody chipped in, and this babysitter earned more money than she would if she just worked for one family by having, I think, 3 kids that she was taking care of. She was still perfectly capable of taking care of those 3 kids, but each family didn't have to spend as much money as they would have if they hired that sitter completely on their own. The other is potentially looking at co-op programs where parents work together and everybody takes turns, and so that might mean that you have to use a half a day of vacation when you're contributing to the child care. But it's a co-op program, and you could Google co-op parenting, co-op childcare, and see some of the really creative things that a lot of people have done. But it's something that's a huge issue in this country as a whole.
Absolutely. This is from Aunt Denise. What is the most important advice you can give to other women who suddenly find themselves almost penniless and jobless?
This is a hard one, no doubt about it, Aunt Denise. And so what I would say is, cut as many costs as you possibly can. So you want to spend as little as possible. If that means that, for example, a mortgage is choking you, could you bring in somebody who might want to rent a room in your house? Can you bring in some family who might want to share some of the expenses? You want to get really creative about how you can cut your costs as simply as possible. Then you want to look at, is there an opportunity to take on a second job? Is there an opportunity to start a side business? What are some of the things that you could be doing to bring in an additional income to what you have going on right now? So it's really cutting expenses and seeing if there are supplementary ways to earn some additional money.
This is from SNK, and we've heard this a lot as well. What should a person over 55 have to do to get hired? I'm a vet with great work ethics, integrity, and excellent skills as an administrative assistant. Okay,
so first is make sure that your resume does not list 35 years of work experience, because that's one red flag that, oh, this person's old, not interested. And I want you to limit your resume to the past 15, maximum 20 years of experience. If you could stick to 10 to 15, that's even better. Then, instead of just submitting your resume on job boards, network with temp agencies directly. The American Staffing Association has a really great website where there's a free database that you can search, and you can find temp agencies in your area, especially ones that specialize in administrative professionals. Don't just send your resume and hope that somebody calls. Pick up the phone and call them. Let them know why you'd be an ideal candidate. Tell them that you're even willing to do temporary work versus, even if a full-time job is what you really want, do temporary work to just get your foot in the door, especially if they can put you into a long-term temp assignment. A lot of people are afraid to do temp work because they only want a full-time job. But what they're not realizing, and what they're a little short-sighted about, is that those temporary assignments can turn full-time. So work work the agencies. You don't just have to sign up with one of them. You can sign up with multiple agencies. And the reality is there are administrative positions. Temp hiring is one of the bright spots in our job market right now.
This is from Norva. Is there a way for people with special needs to find jobs that fit them and fit the employer? Is there a service or a site?
One of the best resources, Norva, that I've seen, and it's especially true here in New York City, but hopefully wherever it is that you live, is a mayor's office. So here in New York, we have a mayor's office for people with disabilities, and there's a special commissioner whose job it is to find employers that are willing to work with people with special needs, a wide variety of special needs. So the first phone call that I would make in your community is to your mayor's office. And if it's not the mayor, call a state senator's office and ask, what are your initiatives? What are the initiatives in my particular area that can help me get hired?
Wow, that's great. I'm so glad to know that. Yeah, that's wonderful. This is from Bill. Tory. Oh, Bill, welcome.
Bill,
we don't
yay.
have a lot of guys, so that's great. How much of a detriment is it in these hard times to have to say you were let go from a job, even if it was part-time and there was no work-related cause?
Oh, then there's nothing to shy away from, especially if it wasn't your fault. I mean, we are in an economy now where everybody knows somebody who received a pink slip. And so what you'd love to be able to do is say that my department was eliminated, or I was one of X number of positions who, people in X number of positions that were eliminated from my company. And you never want to trash the former employer. Instead, you want to say, I was so proud of the work that I did. I wish that I was still with that company, continuing to do my great work, but the economy is such that this department was, downsized. These positions were affected, and I'm ready to take my services to another organization. So there's nothing that you need to be ashamed of. I know it feels like it's just you, but the reality is millions of people sadly are in the same boat. So don't shy away from telling the truth.
That's great. This is from Roberta Ann. Tory, I've been applying and applying for jobs, but nothing is coming through. Can you suggest good fields to apply for a job in this bad economy?
Okay, so Roberta Ann, if I told you that one of the hottest fields was healthcare, but you have no interest in healthcare, that's not going to do a lot of good for you. So instead, what I would say is, instead of avoiding certain fields or going for other fields, rethink the process that you are using to find the job in the field that you want. So if you want a job in a particular industry, even if that industry has been hard hit, make sure that you are using social media to connect. Make sure that you are not relying on job boards. A lot of times someone will say to me, you know what, Tory, this week I applied for 100 jobs, and then you sort of pray and wait for the phone to ring and it doesn't, and you wonder, like, how is this numbers game not working in my favor? I applied to 100 jobs. Surely one of them could pay off. One person could call. But when you're just applying online, that doesn't happen. So for every position that you apply for online, I want you to make 3 phone calls. Every single day I want you to abide by what I call the 5-by-5 rule, which is 5 new contacts every day by 5 p.m. And the more people you connect with, not just positions that you apply to, the faster that you're going to find success. It's about the people, not just the positions. And that's going to help you get hired.
That's great. I think we don't have much time for more, but this is from Blanche. I was wondering what was better for freelance work, submitting an older resume and trying to get more jobs faster, or taking the time to stop searching and update the resume now. I freelance a lot, so it's constantly changing.
Okay, so I think that don't wait. Don't wait on anything. If you have to update your resume, take the next hour and update it. Like, that's as long as you can wait.
Do it in the middle of the night.
Yeah, do it right now. Like, there's no waiting. Like, update the resume and get out there. And I think you can simultaneously apply for freelance and full-time positions. You want to be focused on a variety of areas if that's what excites you, if that's what interests you. Pursue all of the things that interest you. Just make sure that you're not relying on someone discovering your resume on the internet. I think as we've told a lot of the women who have written into us, it's really about connecting with as many people as you possibly can. But don't take off any time to update that resume, like an hour. You could have that thing good as gold.
You're tough. Let's see now, where did I do this? There was somebody who wanted to know, how do I find investors? This is from Sharon P. Any advice on how to find investors for a startup?
Yeah, Sharon, that's the $1,000,000 question. So first thing is, do you have a rich uncle? The first thing is, look close to home. Is there any friends and family who could possibly help? Then if you have good credit, you can potentially apply for a bank loan. You can also look at, are there any investors in your community, or are there venture capital firms that you should go to that specialize in the type of business that you're looking to launch? And you can find out a lot of that information on the internet. And one more idea that I would give you is called crowdfunding. There's a really great two websites that I love called Kickstarter.com and Indiegogo.com, where if you are looking for a small amount of money, say $5,000 to maybe $15,000, you can create a campaign on one of those websites for free, and then use your social media contacts and your friends and family to help fund your campaign. It's not an investment, it's not a loan, they don't get their money back, nor do they get shares in your company, but they might say, you know what, Sharon, that's a really great idea, I'll give you $50 toward it, or I'll give you $5 toward it, or I like it so much, here's $100 toward it. And you wound up getting small amounts of money from a lot of people, and that helps you reach your financial goal so you can start the business.
We really are out of time, but you've been so great and so helpful and really so strong. I'm just wondering, is there anything you think that you didn't get asked that people really need to know, especially women?
I think it's the issue that you pointed out, which is like, take control. You have the ability to make anything happen. I think that there's so many people right now who are on the brink of just something great, and it feels like everything is stacked against you. It feels like, you know, the odds are not in your favor, but keep pushing, keep persevering. You know, I wake up every day and I ask myself, like, what can I do today to make today better than yesterday? And I think it's a really great motto to live by when you are going through a challenging time in your career. What can you do today? What one thing can you do today that's going to give you a better result today than you got yesterday? And if you stick to that each and every day, and it's through a lot of consistent action, you're going to start that business, you're going to grow that business, you're going to get that job, you're going to get that raise, you're going to make all the things that you want happen. I believe that.
Yeah, I do too, and I think it's great to write it down.
Sure.
I remember as a young out-of-work actress, I used to write down every day, you know, things that I could do. You know, call an agent, get my resume to somebody, get to an acting class, you know, find a way I could audition for something. Every day I had a list so that I would check it out. Otherwise you just feel helpless.
That's right. And I think action is like that best antidote to feeling helpless, to being fearful, is taking action. What actions can you take?
And somebody said to me a long time ago that he believed in movement. He said, where there's movement, something else is going to happen. You've got to have movement for anything to ever happen.
That's right.
If you sit home waiting for it, it isn't going to happen.
You got it.
And I had a roommate in college who was very picky about dating. And I remember one time her mother said to her, the more you stay home, the more you stay home. And it's the same thing with a job.
So true.
The more you stay home, the more you keep waiting, the more you keep waiting.
That's right. I'll tell you this last thing. My little son Jake has this joke. 3 birds were sitting on a ledge, and 1 bird decided to fly away. So how many birds were left? And of course I said 2. And he said, no, Mom, 3 birds, because one only decided to do it.
Oh, that's great.
But didn't actually
That's
do
your
it.
son.
That's my son. And so
he learned it from you.
He did. So it's not just making the decisions, it's about taking the action. It's like, let's go do it. Let's go make it happen.
Great advice. Thank you, Tory.
Thank you.
I hope everybody got a good answer, an answer that they can think about for a while. And good luck on your job hunting. Good luck on all your changes. See you next week.